Hello YouTube and welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and I'm here with Toad today. He wanted to join us. And today, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, is this another Seventh Heaven episode? And I'm telling you right now, it's not. It's something different. But that isn't to say that I won't be back on the Seventh Heaven episodes eventually. Maybe we'll look at some later seasons because that show went on for like 10 plus seasons. So we could check out some later stuff, see what the kids are up to. 10 years in the future. And as a side note, I found this YouTube channel online as I was working on the Seventh Heaven videos, and it started recommending it to me, and it's called Catching Up with the Camdens. It started recently, and it is the kids from the show, so the actress that played Lucy, the actress that played Ruthie, and the actor that played Simon. They're the main hosts of the show, but then they also have guest stars like Barry Watson, who played Matt, was on it. I don't know if they'll have Jessica Biel eventually, who played Mary, and maybe some of the other people that were on the show, some guest stars and stuff, but I watched like 1 or 2 episodes and it was pretty interesting. As someone that grew up watching the show, it was interesting because they talk about behind the scenes and just, different things that are happening. So if you're interested in that, Catching Up with the Camdens on YouTube. Check it out. I think it's also a podcast, technically, so I don't know if it's on Spotify or whatever, but anyway, that's just a side note. But today, we're actually talking about a different show. We're talking about a show that came out in the early 2000s. I think it ran from 2002 to 2005, and it was called 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. And I don't know if any of you have seen this one. Well, we're gonna rewatch it, and we're gonna rewatch the first 3 episodes of the first season. I think it ran from 3 seasons. I'm gonna do a little bit of a breakdown so you know who the cast is if you haven't seen it, and we'll just check it out and see what we think. Does it stand the test of time? I remember liking it when I was younger, but I don't know if it stands, the test of time now. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of a breakdown of the family and the actors that they're played by, and just so you can understand the show. So it ran from 2002 to 2005. There were 3 seasons of the show. The family is the Hennessy's, and the father is named Paul, played by John Ritter. I'm sure you know him. He's pretty famous. He, in the show, is a writer. I think he's like a columnist or something, so I think he can work from home sometimes. I'm not 100% sure on that. Kate, the mom, she is played by Katie Seagal, also very famous from various different shows. The premise is that she's a nurse and she's going back to work for, I guess the first time since she was raising the kids. So the show's kind of about that. Bridget is played by Kaylee Cuoco. I don't know if I'm saying that properly, but we know her. She's from a lot of different shows and movies. Middle child, Carrie. She is played by Amy Davidson, and she appeared in a couple different shows and movies after this show as well. The youngest child is Rory. He's the only boy, and he's played by Martin Spangers, and I think he appeared on a couple different shows after this as well, including a Disney Channel show called Good Luck Charlie. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but he was on that. So these are the people that we're going to be dealing with in the first 3 episodes. So we're going to start out, and so it's just going to be about the family dynamic. It's like a family sitcom. So, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what shenanigans go on, and I'm excited for you to come along on this journey. And I haven't watched the show in a long time, so I'm interested to see if I still enjoy it, now that I'm 30, years later, and if it still stands the test of time. So, I'm excited to dive in, and let's get started. Okay, so the first episode of the season, or the series in general, starts out, and basically it's a guy. We find out he's a teenage boy. We find out his name is Kyle. He's beeping outside, and he's there for Bridget, the oldest daughter. So he doesn't get out of the car, he's beeping outside, so the dad, Paul, is basically opens the front door and like motions for this Kyle guy to come inside because he's just beeping outside. Like, it's just rude. I'm sorry. No matter what, like, it's just rude. And I know like there wasn't much texting back then because this is like early 2000s, but like just come to the door. Like, I don't know, or just stop beeping at least. Like, it's just too much. Maybe beep once and then be done, you know? So Paul, he comes up to the door. He's like basically like, Kyle, come on, come inside, because he's not having it. And he basically, like, Kyle's there to pick up Bridget because I guess they're dating. And Paul basically, like, so while he's talking to Kyle, I guess this, I don't know if this is, I think this is his first time meeting Kyle. So as Paul's talking to Kyle, Kyle gets a phone call. And then he starts talking about, like, on the phone how it's some other girl that he's talking to. Like, he's talking to his friend, but it's, like, implied that he has, like, another girlfriend or something that he talks to. And basically Paul, like, reams him out. He's like, oh, like, I'm fine with you having other girlfriends as long as Bridget's fine with it. Like, as long as my daughter's fine with it, basically. So he's just kind of, like, not having it with this teenage boy. He's like, what are you doing? Like, my daughter deserves the best, you know? So basically he, like, Bridget finally comes down the stairs and she's like, oh, I can't believe you're talking to my boyfriend or whatever. She's so embarrassed. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm sorry, but the outfits that Bridget wears, I don't know how she's wearing that to school. Because she, like, her whole stomach's out, like, everything's out. I don't know how that passes dress code at school, because that is, like, the outfits that she wears that they make her wear is, like, insane. It's, like, always, like, super crop tops, super low pants, like, everything's hanging out, you know, like, and I'm just not really sure how that's passing dress code, but whatever. That's just a side note. So anyway, so yeah, basically the premise is that Kate has to go back to work. She's been raising the kids all this time, and since Paul, the father, is a writer and he columnist, he works from home. He's like managing the kids now, so he's like learning more about them and, you know, like trying to, you know, look out for his daughters and all that, and obviously his son too. So that's just like basically the premise. And just to explain the kids a little more, so Bridget is popular and, like, she's just like your popular girl, blonde, you know, like that, like, kind of like that stereotype, I guess. Like, they consider, like, they act like she's dumb in the show, but, like, you know, I just think it's a stereotype. So she's more like popular. She likes to go shopping. Like, she's always hanging out with her friends. Guys always want to date her. Then we have Carrie. She's the middle child. She cares about the environment. She cares about animals. She is smart. And she has like red hair with curls or whatever. And her and Bridget are very different, so they clash a lot with like their ideas, and Carrie like mocks Bridget a lot, like making her feel like dumb, like, you know, just making dumb jokes and saying like, this is what this word means, you know, things like that. So they have like that banter back and forth. But Bridget like holds her own, you know, she'll say stuff to Carrie too. So they go back and forth like sisters would. And I guess Carrie's probably like 14 maybe. I think she's in high school too, and I think Bridget's like 16, so, you know, not super far off. Rory is the boy. He's probably in like late middle school, I would think. I don't think he's in high school yet. He is like mischievous. He's always up to some weird stuff. Like, nobody ever knows like what's going on with him. He kind of like flies by the radar sometimes because there's so much going on with the girls that, like, you know, they not forget about him, but like he just does weird stuff sometimes. He likes video games, likes to go skateboarding. Sometimes he has like random things going on that people aren't aware of. So it's just like, you know, that kind of stuff. But he's also like banters with the dad, the mom, the kids. Like, they all banter with each other. So it's pretty funny. Okay. So basically, the show starts out and it's Paul, the father, trying, like, I guess it's before school, so like they're eating breakfast and stuff, and he's trying to talk to the middle child, Carrie, and she's like in a mood, I guess, because she's a teenager, like teen angst, you know. So, and this is funny because basically he tries to ask her if she's on her period without asking her if she's on her period. So it's like a little banter back and forth, and she's like, what do you want to ask me? So this conversation is a lot funnier than the one that Lucy and her dad Eric had in Seventh Heaven. This one's kind of funny. It's just a back and forth, like, do you have your, and she's just like, what do you want to ask me? So it's kind of funny, they go back and forth. And basically I just thought it was done better than the Seventh Heaven one, because that one was too much. But basically, it's just a back and forth, and she's just in a mood. She's not happy, and he's trying to figure out why, and he can't, like, she's not really giving him much, basically. She's like, I'm not going to tell my dad, you know, what's going on with me. So then we get into where he packed them, like, sack lunches, I guess, like, in brown paper bags. And Bridget and Carrie are like, oh, like, we're gonna look like losers, basically, like, and then they make fun of him a little bit. They're like, I can't believe you brought a sack lunch to school for so many years, because he talked about how he did it. And they're like, ew. So it's just kind of funny, like, daughter-father banter back and forth for teenagers, you know. But basically, you know, I don't really think it's a big deal if you're bringing a sacked lunch. Like, I don't really see what the problem is. But, like, I guess you could get a lunchbox, maybe? Is that bad? Like, what else are you gonna do? You're just gonna buy lunch every day? I don't know. I don't really think sack lunches are a problem, but you guys tell me, like, for teenagers, like, I don't know, like, does it make you look like a loser? I don't know, like, nobody can, like, most people can't afford to be buying lunch every day. So, like, how else are you gonna transport it unless you get a lunchbox? Like, I don't know. And even then, like, is that considered, like, weird? Like, I don't know. So, I don't really get that, but that's fine, whatever. You guys let me know in the comments, like, is that weird? He has to drop the kids off at school, and Bridget and Carrie go to the same school because they go to high school, and then Rory is, like, next because he goes to middle school. So, basically, the daughters are both like, oh, you can't drop us off, like, right in the front because, like, we don't want, like, everyone to see that our dad dropped us off, and, like, you know, like, they want to seem cool, I guess. I don't know. But, like, they're like, yeah, you can't drop us off right here, don't address us directly, blah, blah, blah. You know, they're just embarrassed by him. So, then, like, they didn't bring their lunches that he brought them, like, in the car. So they get out of the car, and then he drives up to, like, right in front of the school with Rory, and the dad's basically like, oh, like, he calls them their little nicknames that he has for them. I think it's, like, Care Bear for Carrie and, like, Beach for Bridget. So he says, Care Bear, Beach, you forgot your lunches. And then, like, your sack lunches, and he holds up the lunch. And then they both look at him in disgust, and he drives away laughing with Rory. So, like, it's just a little bit back and forth. Like, they're just joking around. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then we get to the next scene. I guess he dropped Rory off or whatever. And then we get to the next scene, and it's Paul. Like, I guess he goes into the office sometimes, too, for, like, meetings and stuff. So he's in the office, and his coworker, Tommy, like, just not a fan of Tommy. Like, he's just, like, kind of gross guy. And so, like, he just seems like a jerk. I don't know. There's something weird about him. But he basically calls Paul's daughter hot, like Bridget. He calls her hot in front of him. And regardless, like, that's gross. Like, she's a teenager, and you're, like, a middle-aged man. Like, that's disgusting on all levels. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, it just, like, grosses me out that this Tommy guy is just like, oh, your hot daughter? Like, she's a teenager. That's disgusting. Like, so that, I don't like that comment. Wasn't a fan of that. And we find out that this Kyle guy that Bridget is seeing is actually Tommy's son. So that's not looking good for Kyle, because I already don't like Tommy. So if he's anything like his dad, I don't think Bridget should be dating him. I don't think he's good for Bridget, but I guess that's for her to decide. So Carrie has been acting strange, as we know. She's been moody, and Paul's trying to figure out what's going on. And it's revealed that basically, like, she's an honor student, she's smart, like, she does everything right, but apparently she's been skipping school, and the parents are called in to, like, the principal's office for a meeting, and so they're discussing everything, and they're basically saying, like, nothing's really changed except, like, Kate went back to work, the mom, and that's about it. So, like, I mean, it's a shift, but it's not, like, crazy, you know, the dad's still around, so it's, like, whatever, you know, he's still there, like, helping out with the kids, so I don't know. So it's like some sort of change for her. And the dad's trying to figure out how to handle this because the mom, Kate, has to go back she had like an emergency at the hospital or whatever for nursing. So she has to leave. And they get back to the house, and Paul and Carrie, they're in Carrie's bedroom, and he's trying to talk to her about everything. And then, like, Paul's like, oh, hold on a second before we talk about this. He opens the closet, and so Bridget and Carrie share a bedroom, right? He opens the closet, and Rory's in there eating a sandwich. He's in their closet. And I'm like, that is really creepy behavior. Like, why are you in their room? Like, are you, like, watching them? Like, I don't know. I just find that really creepy. But, like, I didn't really have a brother growing up, so I don't know, but it's a little weird for me. I think that's kind of weird. So Rory's a little creepo, and then he just runs out, like, while he's eating the sandwich. And so then he's just like, yeah, he's just having this conversation, trying to make her feel better, like, trying to figure out what's going on, why she's skipping school, and also see what's going on, you know, with Carrie. And so he talks to her. And then he gets a call from Bridget that somebody's car broke down, and she's at the mall. And he's like, you're not supposed to be at the mall or whatever. She talks really fast. He doesn't quite understand what she's saying. But he's like, all right, I'll come pick you up from the mall, okay? Like, because I guess her friend's car broke down or something, so she's at the mall by herself, so he's going to go pick her up. So when he gets to the mall, he sees that Bridget's with Kyle, Tommy's son, who we don't like Tommy. But anyway, he sees them talking, and, like, so this Kyle guy's, like, flirting with Bridget, right? And then this other girl walks by and says, hey, Kyle. And then Kyle's like, I gotta go. And then he goes and does the same type of flirting with this other girl. Big no for me. I mean, not a fan of that. So the dad, Paul, sees this unfolding, and he feels bad for her. Like, she's kind of crying, and, like, you know, she's sad. And so he finally goes over to her, and he goes over to comfort her. He's like, oh, like, you want to go home? And, like, you know, he's trying to comfort his daughter. And so then it's found out when they get back to the house that, I guess Carrie reveals this, that Bridget, like, had somebody else she was going to homecoming dance with, like this Dustin guy, and Kyle was like, she was trying to find someone better. So she's going with this Dustin guy. She's trying to find someone better, and she thought Kyle was the better option. Like, so she was basically, like, she already had a date, and she was gonna ditch that Dustin guy for Kyle. Kyle's not the better option, but she's a teenager, so I guess she doesn't know. But, like, I don't see how Kyle would have been the better option between the two of them. I don't even know what Dustin looks like, or is like, but he has to be better than Kyle, right? So basically, she was crying, but, like, you can't feel as bad for her because she's, like, two-timing it over here, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you get what you get with that, you know? So then Paul's like, what's going on? I just comforted you, and now it turns out you're two-timing somebody, or you're trying to get a better date. Like, that's kind of messed up. So he's like, what the heck, you know? So as they're talking about this homecoming stuff and how, Bridget's trying to ditch one guy for the other, she ultimately decides she's going to go with Dustin because Kyle sucks, I guess, or whatever, and she's trying to be a good person. And, as they're talking about it, Carrie's like, oh, I'm not going to homecoming. And I'm thinking she's going to say, it's stupid, that, she's not into dances or whatever. But really, she doesn't. She kind of gets emotional and runs away and says, she thinks it's, whatever. So she just, gets emotional, runs away about it. And so then Paul's like, oh, I guess I should talk to her about that, So then Paul says to Bridget, oh, nobody asked her, did they? And she's like, no, nobody asked her to homecoming. So she's all sad that nobody asked her to homecoming. So, she appears to not care about, these regular teenage things, Carrie, but she does. I mean, you can tell that she is emotional and that, it does bother her that she wasn't asked at least, even if she didn't want to go or whatever. So, Paul goes up to try to talk to her, and basically, it's, the most awkward father-daughter talk I've ever seen in my life. It's he's he's trying to convince her that she's pretty without being weird about it, and he's like, oh, you have the nicest eyes when you were a baby, and I still see those nice eyes. So I don't know, it's not incestual, but it's just funny. He's really trying to make her feel better, and because she basically outright asks him, do you think I'm pretty? And he's like, of course I think you're pretty. And then she's like, it's kind of funny because she's like, well, what do you know? You're old, so it's kind of funny. And basically after the conversation that they have, he tries to comfort her, and I guess it works in some way. And Carrie apologizes to her parents for ditching school, but it's not really revealed why she was ditching school. Was it the homecoming thing? Was it she just wasn't feeling I don't know, she just felt rejected. I don't really know why she was ditching school. They didn't really say, but she did apologize and she's not going to do it anymore, so I guess the talk helped her in some way. And basically the episode just ends there, and there was some guy this was earlier in the episode, there was some guy in a chat room named Jesse that was I guess trying to because back then you just had one computer in the house, so Paul was using it for work, and then he sees this guy pop up named Jesse in a chat room, and he's like, who is this? And he starts this guy's flirting or whatever, so he's like, who is this for? Is this for Bridget? He assumes it's for Bridget, but really it was Carrie. So at the end of this episode, this guy Jesse shows up, and he's supposed to be going on a date with Carrie, and Paul's just not, he's like, no. So he just slams the door in his face. So he's like, bye, Jesse. So Carrie was all excited about this date, and he's like, no thanks. So he rejects that idea. So that's the end of the first episode of 8 Simple Rules, and now we'll go into the second episode.